Hi friends, Astrologer Joe here. Here is this month's new moon outlook. This one for November the 1st, 2024. And I've titled this one Point of No Return. And I'll explain what that means in a minute as I go over the charts. But I'm also going to be talking about the U.S. elections in this video. So I will be making a loose prediction of what's going to happen and which candidate is more favored. The astrology is just a mess because of the outer planets, especially between Pluto and Mars. I will be going over the candidates' charts and seeing who is more favored in this election. But of course, we still have that wild card that an event could occur before the election or on the election day, causing it to be delayed, or there could be power outages or whatever it is. There's going to be a lot of confusion around this election. And so I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. I will go over some charts. But this is a very powerful moon because it's in the sign of Scorpio. So let's dive in, okay? So first off, anytime we have a new moon in Scorpio, it is a very strong energy which indicates transformation of some kind, because the sign of Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. And it usually symbolizes a transformation internally, psychologically, emotionally. And it's also associated with power and power structures. So we have this new moon on the 1st, and depending on where it is in your birth chart, this is the area that's going to be lit up for the next couple of weeks. Now, since we're doing an election overview and predictions here, I'm going to show you how this new moon will affect the United States as well. And I will go over the charts, but let's go over some of the general characteristics of Scorpio. Okay, this is a sign that is about intensity and passion. This is not a wishy-washy sign. Okay, so it's an emotional, magnetic, powerful, complicated, competitive, creative, passionate, secretive. Everything about this Scorpio symbol is just like the animal, the little animal that comes out at night, and it will sting you if you cross it in some way. But it is a sign associated with death and rebirth, transformation on many levels. Okay, but it is a sign that is very persistent and can be very loyal. And so this is the kind of energy that's at play in the next 2 weeks. So the passions will be running high no matter what happens in this election. So, and I've talked about that as well. So let me see here. Why isn't this going for? Okay, so let's talk about the U.S. election. I will be making a prediction about this a little later on, but first I do want to go over the new moon and what it looks like. So here is the new moon on the 1st. I've got it set to Washington, D.C. because it's the East Coast at 8:47 a.m. So here we see it at 9 degrees of Scorpio. So wherever this is in your actual birth chart, that's the area or the house. These are constellations, basically, but we call them houses in astrology. And so the 9 degrees of Scorpio. So wherever that is in your birth chart, that's the area that gets lit up. So the next 2 weeks, you could expect some changes in that area. And so since this is a passionate and very determined sign, it opens up a doorway for change. So many people will be moving or, changing relationships, changing their jobs, focusing on financial matters. Scorpio is one of the financial signs, just like Taurus is. So these are the things that are in our psyche. And so, the other thing it could be is the actual psyche, because Scorpio rules psychology and the deepest part of our being. It has to do with sexuality as well. So it might be bringing up memories from the past, encounters that you've had, or childhood memories of, people that you were around and were either very good to you or not very good to you. It opens up this doorway. But for the most part, it's a new opportunity because it's a new moon in Scorpio. So there's a chance to transform here. Now, like I said, Scorpio is associated with power. So what are we looking at here in the United States? We're looking at 2 people that are running for or want to be the power structure symbolically of the United States. So we're going to be covered that in a minute. But look at the aspects of this new moon. Now, Scorpio is ruled by Pluto right there. Its co-ruler is Mars. And look at this opposition. So is this going to be an easy new moon? Absolutely not. Because of these two, which will be exact on November 3rd, and I will go over that as well, there's a lot of tension in the air. It's like we're anticipating something to happen, something big, some energetic wave. If you've been following some of my other videos and on my forums, and especially my private community, I talk about all this, where we have these solar flares and solar events that just keep popping off on the sun. And so this is definitely something we need to pay attention to. But this is the kind of energy when we have these alignments occurring, that anything is possible in a sort of a destructive manner or a surprising manner, like a shocking manner, and that's the kind of energy we have during this new moon in Scorpio. Now, I'm not trying to scare anyone. It's just the way the energy works. It's like a storm that develops out of nowhere. All of a sudden it causes change, and that's the kind of energy we have. So we have to really be mindful the next 2 weeks of this alignment, these wheels that are being set in motion. We've also got a loose opposition from Mercury, which is also in Scorpio, to surprising Uranus. So a lot of words, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things are going to be brought out in us. And feeling, it's like a bubble's about to burst in a sense. And that's the energy of this new moon that's literally setting this new cycle in motion. But we also got Venus also opposing Jupiter at the same time. So you can see how when I look at this chart, or any astrologer looks at this chart, goes, oh my goodness, wow, there's a lot of tension in the air here. Now I just highlighted this one because it's the most significant, because it's the ruler of this new moon. It is making one favorable alignment, and that is to Saturn. But Saturn represents corporations, governments, anything to do with structure. And so we're going to see that Saturn's going to be moving forward again this month as well. It's going to be going direct. It's in retrograde mode. So it is showing me a favorable time here if you wanted to start something new in your personal life. Like, for instance, you want to get more organized, unclutter your house, start an exercise program, start a new job. These are all things that are showing here that are very possible here. Now, just keep in mind, because of these other, oppositions, there's going to be a need for effort, or there's going to be a little tension in the mix. You see, it's just the way it works. But for the most part, wherever this is in your own personal chart, it will light up an opportunity for change, an opportunity for financial matters, investments, possibly close personal relationships, and that could be friendships or business. And so this is all on the table here. Scorpio is represented this time of the year as the fall, when the sun is going below the horizon. It's falling, it's dying. This is why Scorpio is associated with death. These ancient cultures that created the astrology knew all about the sun rising, going up to the high point, and then coming down and dying below the equator in the northern hemisphere. And so this is all symbolism. So, and again, this is a time of great transformation with this new moon in Scorpio. Okay, so let's continue here. I'll show you some other things that are going on. Now, we also have, at the same time, we have this kite formation. Now, in astrology, this is a very dynamic and harmonious configuration that often brings a sense of purpose, focus, and opportunity. Because we have a trine going on also, okay, we have a trine between Mercury, Neptune, and Mars. And they're all in water signs, so we're feeling much more emotional and sensitive than normal, which is favorable. So being close to family, friends, enjoying ourselves around them. We've also got the oppositions going on, and we also have these sextiles, which is favorable in astrology. So it tends to be a little bit more favorable. Sometimes it could be a little unrealistic, this kite formation, but it's literally like flying a kite. You're seeing everything, and you're up there. You're not sure what's going to happen, where it's going to turn, where we're going to go, but you're excited that you're up in the air. That's how it would symbolically represent a kite formation. Okay, represents a balanced interplay between ease and effort, creating a pattern of focused potential that helps us individually navigate life's opportunities with purpose and resilience. That's how I would describe it here. So along with those other chaotic alignments we still have this kite formation. So what I'm suggesting here is rise above the political theater. And that's going to be very important, because with the astrology coming up, this month and going into 2025, more and more people are going to sort of lose their grip on reality. And I've been saying this for a while, And every astrologer knows this. Pluto entering Aquarius. And then next year, when we have Uranus in Gemini and Saturn and Neptune go into Aries, people are going to feel more restless. They're going to feel more agitated. So rise above this, just like a kite flying high. Rise above it. Be wise. Understand what's actually happening. The dynamics of the energy is shifting. And it starts this month. So this is what I mean by the point of no return. Beginning this month, moving forward, and it really started last month with the eclipses, with the October eclipse. It set the wheels in motion, and now the moon's following continue to set those wheels in motion. And so there's a point of no return. There's no going back to the old ways anymore, friends. And so it's a new world that is going to be thrust upon us. And I mean that socially, I mean that politically, I mean that economically, I mean that interacting with other people. That's what I mean by the point of no return. We are going into a whole new world, a whole new way of looking at the world. And so this is the moon that is setting those wheels in motion big time. Okay? So nothing to be afraid of. It's just part of the experience. You know, we have great times in our lives, then we have big transformations, then we have terrible times in our lives. It's just how it works. Now it's happening to the United States. And things are being exposed for what they are. And I'm here as one of the messengers, and there are many, many others just like me trying to get information out to what's really happening in the world. All right? So, you know, trust your own intuition and your own judgment. All right, so let's go back to these three intense, powerful squares. This is what they represent. So you could take a screenshot of this and understand it a little bit better. They're intense. Okay, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of pressure. Forceful change, disagreements, anger, conflict, war, battle. I mean, it runs the whole gambit because you have three of them. They're being amplified even more. So this could be very motivating as well. When we have these kinds of alignments, it's not necessarily doom and gloom. It's motivation, you know, to get your ass moving, to do something different, to try something different, you see? So that would be my suggestion on a personal level, to do something, you know, that you want to do that's helpful, that's creative, that could help others in some way. And so this is a lot of tension that needs to be directed. So again, think of your body as an antenna or a tuning fork. And when this energy is vibrating, it needs to go somewhere. So don't get stuck in your mind or your emotions or your fears. Move the energy. I go for walks every single day, sometimes twice, 3 times a day. I do some exercising, you know, stretching, you know, anything to move around, because it's very important to move the energy. Okay, so that's my suggestion. Now, let's dive into the United States and how this new moon is going to affect the United States. So here we have the United States' chart on the inner wheel. And here's the new moon. Here's the new moon right there. And it's making favorable alignments to some of the planets here, the Sun and Jupiter, and the trine to the transiting Saturn. So what is this suggesting? Absolutely something to do with power structures, something to do with information, something to do with money matters, something to do with the homeland, since we're talking about Cancer. Cancer rules the home. And so it's almost as if we're all excited about something that's coming, you know, and that's the kind of energy we have in the United States. Absolutely. The United States is keeping their eye on the political theater and how it's going to go after the 5th. So there's an anticipation here in the United States. Now, there is the 3 oppositions. As you could see here, I'm not saying it's easy, because Mars is in the 8th house of transformation, opposing both the transiting Pluto and the natal Pluto. And then we have Mercury opposing Uranus. We have Venus opposing Jupiter. And so we do have a lot of tension in the air. So it's like this mixed bag of nice, positive, let's rise above everything, and then all this tension that's underlying it, you see? It's like the calm before the storm. And that's the kind of energy we have during this new moon in the United States. So we'll have to do the best we can. I mean, you know, there's no options here. So let's dive into the candidates, and I want to show you a little bit about their charts and how this new moon affects them. So here we see it in Kamala's chart right here at 9 degrees in Scorpio in the 5th house of creativity. So she's at the next 2 weeks is a very creative time for her. It's a very important time for her. Whatever happens at the election, she is at a crossroads in her life. And the reason is because of Pluto and Mars. But look at her moon and her sun. There's a giant cross, and I've covered this in other videos. She's got the giant grand cross in her chart. Whatever this woman got herself in, she's in way over her head. And I mean this astrologically because of this giant cross. This is a heavy burden to bear. Whatever deal she made, to get to where she is, it's more than she can handle. And the pressure, and I've talked about this in other videos, the pressure is on. There's a psychological pressure on this individual. And so we also see it with the Saturn conjuncting Chiron. Whatever's going on is a deep psychological transformation. Now, there's also Uranus, conjuncting her Jupiter, which is opposing Mercury. So we have one of the oppositions there. We have the second opposition here, making an alignment to her chart right there. We have Jupiter in a weakened position as well, in retrograde in the 12th house. This is not a favorable chart for winning an election. I'm sorry if you supporters of Kamala. This is not a favorable chart to win an election, especially with Saturn in the 10th house. Now, if this individual was a preacher or a medicine person or somebody who dealt with, religion and spirituality, I would say, yeah, this is a great chart to get out there right now and preach and teach and show people, about reality, because both Saturn and Neptune in the 10th house would be somebody who's like a minister or a religious leader or, a yogi or something along those lines. And so that would be my take on that. But this new moon is going to empower her not very well because it's triggering these weird points in her chart. The Pluto Mars opposition triggers her her moon and her sun. So it's not very favorable at all. I'm looking for any other aspects to her chart. They make a loose one here to Uranus, which is surprises, a sextile. So this is surprises in the mix. It's making a trine to her Chiron. So something is, coming to a relief. This may be a relief for her in the next 2 weeks. Like, oh God, I'm so glad this is over. Kind of that feeling. And so this could be part of that. So let's dive into Mr. Trump's chart here. So we see the new moon is in his third house of communication. So what is he doing? He's hitting the road in the states that are what do you call those states? The 7 states that are possibly up in the air. The swing states, thank you. So here it is at 9 degrees. Now it is making a rough alignment to his Pluto at 10 degrees. Okay, so there's a square right there. And so we see power structures that are behind the scenes that are trying to, affect his election, take him out, cause chaos, whatever you want to call it. And then we see the trine to Saturn in the 7th. He has very powerful people behind him that are protecting him in some way. And then we see that opposition here. Mars opposing Pluto right on his Venus. Now, I'm going to say something here. I mentioned it once before, but he needs to really be careful. He is not out of danger. Even if he does get elected, he is not out of danger. And this indicates a woman or a female that could sort of literally stab him in the back or figuratively stab him in the back. Okay, I'll throw him under the bus because of this alignment here. So over the next 2 weeks, there could be somebody that has major conflict with him. And I'm not talking about Kamala. It could be somebody close to him, family member, somebody he's known a while that may come out. There was another scandal, another supposed model, a woman that came forth, said he groped her or whatever it was. I don't know. It could be something along those lines as well. But there's that opposition. Okay, there's one of the oppositions. Then he's got the Jupiter opposing his moon, another opposition. And then, of course, there's the Venus also opposing there. And we've got Uranus opposing Mercury. So, again, we could see from both of these candidates, there's something, isn't right here. There's just so much pressure. There's so much, misalignments going on here that it's a very, confusing time. Many people that don't understand what's going on, it just seems to be bubbling. Something's bubbling. But in his chart, he does have a more favorable Jupiter. That's his saving grace right here. He's also got, the new moon in the third house of communication. So whatever it is he's doing, it seems to be working. He seems to be connecting with the audience. The downside here is this opposition here from Uranus and Mercury is to his Mars. So tremendous strain, sudden surprises, things that are changing on a daily basis. And so this new moon is almost invigorating him, but he knows that it's an uphill battle. So this is what he's up against, okay? So let's go into the second. Mercury enters Sagittarius. Now Mercury's in a much more powerful position. It is definitely more about being vocal and speaking out and feeling a little bit more optimism, because Mercury in Sagittarius can be optimistic. And so we see it in the United States' chart here in the 12th house. So there's stuff rumbling from behind the scenes and communication. Now, there's a lot of communication coming in the next couple of weeks because of these alignments, and especially leading up to the full moon on the 15th. So whatever happens in this election, there's going to be outrage, crying, screaming, yelling, protests, whatever you want to call it. It's going to happen no matter who wins. And Mercury will lead the way here because Mercury in Sagittarius is outspoken. And so we see that in the United States' chart, and eventually it'll cross over into the first house of identity and self, where Venus is already there. And so we're going to see a lot of people getting upset over the next couple of weeks. Now, there's two oppositions on the 3rd that are very powerful, and they're exact. So this is probably the day, it's either on the 2nd or the 3rd, where we may have a significant event or something major that grabs our attention. And of course, we have to look for this information online because the mainstream media basically is gone away or is fading away, because they're losing their power structure. Nobody believes them anymore. So we have to rely on the forums and alternative media to find any real news. And so here we have two major oppositions that are exact on the 3rd. So this is a lot of tension in the air. So this could be something to do with campaigns. It could have something to do with the United States because we have, planets in Sagittarius. We have the moon transiting in Sagittarius, and that's the rising sign of the United States. We also have the opposition in the United States' chart. So it's a very volatile time, especially on the 3rd. So the 2nd and the 3rd, we need to keep an eye on events, world events, like a war or, conflict or, whatever, the sun exploding again, which it's been doing on a regular basis the last couple of days. So we need to pay attention to all of that. Now, let's get to, on the 3rd, in the evening hours, late evening hours, Mars enters Leo. Now, this is going to be very important because Mars is how we how we express ourselves in terms of our energy, momentum, drive. Now, in Leo, it's a very strong alignment. Mars in Leo is very driven. It's very much, notice me, I'm going to be creative, I need attention. I'm going to be into challenging myself and challenging myself with others. And so Mars in Leo is going to be very important during this time over the next 6 months. And I've talked about this in the 2025 video. So from November 3rd to January 6th, remember that date right there because it's going to be very important. Mars will stay in Leo, but it will go retrograde on December the 6th. So it'll start backtracking in Leo, but it'll stay in Leo. But it'll be retrograde until February 24th. It'll start off in Leo, then go into Cancer. So as you can see here, again, we're talking about Cancer being the United States' sun sign. So we are seeing a tremendous confusion in the mix here during this period of time, especially in astrology on January 6th, because this is the time where Mars goes back into Cancer on January 6th, the 5th and 6th. So we could see a lot of confusion in the beginning of January. Now, Mars will re-enter Leo in a forward momentum on April the 19th. So you could see here, we have very strong will, we have strong desires, energy, movement, then it slows down during the retrograde period, and then it builds back up again. So this is why we astrologers are saying, boy, 2025 looks really interesting. And so this is one of the reasons why, because we have this amped up energy. Mars in Leo, it works well because they're both fire energy signs. So momentum, moving forward, drive, competition, all of this stuff falls under the Mars in Leo umbrella. So wherever this is in your own birth chart, this will motivate you in that area. So pay close attention to what you're doing and remember this, okay? So let's go on to the day of the election. And I'm going to show you some of the astrology here, and then we'll go into the candidates, and I will make a prediction here on who is favored for the win of this election. So on the 5th, I've got it set for 12 p.m., and so we see the sun in Scorpio. We see the moon just entered Capricorn, which is the sign of government and corporations and leaders and anything to do with government, okay? So we have, obviously, the moon in Capricorn. But we also have Mars that just entered Leo. So we have an inconjunct going on right away here, which is confusion, uncertainty, unrealistic expectations. Now, Mars in Leo is definitely going to be more motivated. So there's going to be a big turnout in this election. We already know that. I mean, it's kind of a given. Everyone's paying attention, and they know this is one of the most significant elections of our lifetime. We also see an alignment to Mercury, so people are going to be very outspoken. Remember that on November the 2nd and 3rd, the energy is very volatile. So people are going to be very outspoken, and there's already a lot of crazy activity happening in those swing states, like mailboxes set on fire. There is like Arizona and I believe it's Michigan having 200,000 more voters than they have on their registration in the counties. I mean, we're seeing all kinds of stupidity in Pennsylvania where police are putting out time limits, like you can only stay online to vote up until 5 o'clock. I mean, there's all kinds of weird shenanigans going on in these swing states. And of course, let's not talk, we could talk about Georgia as well with all kinds of nonsense going on over there. So whatever's happening on election day, it's chaotic. It is, stupid stuff that's going to happen again like it did in 2020, where things are going to be filmed. People are going to be at odds with each other. There's a lot of friction in the air because of Mars, because of the confusion to the moon. It's a very irritable day is what all I could say here, okay? And that's what I'm seeing. Now, in the USA chart, I just put the day around here, so let's look a little deeper. We see the moon has now entered Capricorn, and it's opposing right away Venus, and then eventually oppose Jupiter. This will all happen throughout the day as we go into. So there's going to be conflict. There's going to be frustration. There's going to be irritation. There's going to be uncertainty. Okay? I doubt very much that they will announce who wins this election on November by the end of November 5th. I doubt very much that there will be an announcement of who won. It'll be too damn close to call. That's what they're going to say. And of course, we have to kind of take it at face value until we see what happens. Because of the swing states, because of the 4 or 5 swing states, we will not know who is going to win the election. Okay? Now, let's go a little further here. In Donald Trump's chart, Donald Trump on the 5th, just from the alignments alone, absolutely looks more favorable. I'm not saying it's a great favorability. I'm saying absolutely more favorable because of Jupiter right there in his sign, okay, right on his north node, like he's destined to do something. He's got Venus also on his moon, okay, so even though this is an opposition, it still favors him more. He's got Mars that just entered, transiting Mars just enters Leo. He's got Mars in Leo. He's got Pluto in Leo. He's got the rising in Leo. So again, this favors him more. So I'm going to say here that he will technically be the winner, okay? And of course, I'm going out on a limb here because it's too damn close between the charts, and I'll show you Kamala's in a minute. So the election favors Mr. Trump a lot more astrologically, okay? And so because of he's got some, pretty okay alignments in this. So I'm not saying it's great, because he still has Uranus squaring Mars, but he does have some favorability here, is what I'm seeing. Okay, looking at the transits. He's also got Mercury, his ruler, in the 4th house, which looks okay as well. So I'm seeing some favorability, much more favorability in Donald Trump's chart and him winning this election. Now, does that mean he's going to be president? That's a tricky one, friends, because there's a lot of talk and speculation, even if he does win the nomination. And by the time we get to January 6th, there's going to be so many obstacles and hurdles in this man's way that this would cause conflict. Okay, but let's go to Kamala's chart and look at why I'm saying that this is not as favorable for Kamala. First of all, we have this Pluto sitting right here, squaring her sun and moon. Okay, now Pluto in the 8th house can also represent very powerful connections, very powerful resources behind the individual. And we know that both candidates were placed in these positions by someone else. With Mr. T, it was the military-industrial complex. It's the very wealthy, powerful individuals that are in the shadows that chose him and said, we need him. I think we could save the country. I think we could, have a better country if we put him in power. Then, of course, you have in Kamala's chart, very powerful individuals that opened the doors for her, funded her, and said, I think we could use her and put her in power. And, she would do what we want her to do. Okay, this is what these candidates represent. The only difference between the two, in my opinion, is that you have one person that has an absolute track record because he was president before, and he showed you what he's capable of. Okay, Kamala has never been in this position before, nor has she done anything in her career. I mean, you could look at her career. I'm not faulting her for what she's done, but you could see she basically was in government, and she climbed the ladder and made herself popular, but she's never really built anything. She's never really created jobs. She's never really done anything of that nature. And that's why I'm saying you could see the difference between the two candidates. You see, just basic observation. And so we could see that. And so, but I'm also saying as an astrologer, this really is a very tricky time for her. And the fact that she has Uranus and Jupiter in very weakened positions in her 12th house. The 12th house is a victim. The 12th house is not as strong. Trump has stronger alignments in his chart. So this is why I say it's more favorable for him. But that doesn't mean he's going to win. This is the tricky part here, because we've seen elections in the United States where the opponent didn't even campaign. Matter of fact, we saw it in 2020. We saw Mr. Biden campaigning from his basement, never really having any rallies or speeches. And if he did, there was like 20 or 30 people that showed up. And all of a sudden, he gets the most votes in American politics, in history, 81 million. Does anyone really believe that nonsense? More votes than Barack Obama? It's total BS, friends. So what I'm suggesting here is, because of her powerful connections, whoever these people are behind the scenes that are pulling the levers and the strings, this is going to be a very tricky, election. Because if it's close and the shenanigans start acting up, you got Kamala as the president. Okay, and then all of a sudden, there's craziness. Technically, based on the astrology, based on the votes and the polls, and take everything with a grain of salt, friends. But it favors Trump. Trump should win this election. But if he doesn't, man, it's just going to be another repeat of 2020 again. Where there's all kinds of stupidity going on. So we're going to see. It's going to be tricky. So my prediction is that Trump will pull ahead, maybe by a point or two. And then there's going to be contesting it. And then there's going to be, shenanigans going on in the election. And then all of a sudden it gets overturned. Then Kamala becomes president. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'm seeing, friends. This is the kind of nonsense I'm seeing. And it's going to cause a lot of chaos and confusion. So there's my prediction. So let's see what happens. Okay. So we astrologers are all saying the same thing. I've watched 2 or 3 other astrologers, and they're all saying the same thing. It looks very confusing, and Trump has a slight favorability here and, should win it. But again, you can't discount the deep state and the corruption and all the other stuff behind the scenes. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, whoever wins, there will be chaos. I'm sorry to have to say that, and I'm saying this as an astrologer, who no matter what they announce and whoever wins, it's going to be chaotic. And it's going to start in the middle of November and continue on. And I hope it's just short-lived, but As I've said before, it's going to be chaotic. All right, so let's go back here to the astrology. I want to lead up to the the full moon. So on the 11th, we have Venus entering Capricorn. Okay, so before we had the transiting moon opposing, now we have Venus. This is very important because Venus is going to be opposing Venus. Venus is going to be opposing Jupiter, and eventually Venus will oppose the sun. So this is where the chaotic nonsense is coming into being. There's also one alignment to the North Node. There is confusion here, friends. Anytime we have, a square to the North Node like this, and this is in the 4th house of the United States, which is the homeland, we are looking at uncertainty here with this election. We may go until the 11th and they'll still not know who really won, or there may be counties and states that are going to be contested. That's what I'm seeing here. And that's why I'm saying this. The astrology is showing a lot of confusion, a lot of uncertainty, and it's just from Venus entering Capricorn and squaring the nodes. Okay? It's like we have a repeat of something going on here. That's what I'm seeing here, friends. So, brace yourself because it's going to get a little stupid. Now, on the 15th, this is a very important day because not only do we have Saturn going direct in Pisces, here it is right here. Now it's in the 3rd house of communication, and now it's in stationary position. Within a week or so, it'll start moving forward. So here we now have the power of Saturn to move forward. It's in the 3rd house where people are going to be speaking out. There's going to be politicians. There's going to be legal battles. There's going to be all kinds of uncertainty in the mix. We also see Mercury has also, fully entered the 1st house. And so I'm seeing conflict. I'm seeing confusion. I'm seeing lawsuits after lawsuits about the election, about they did this wrong. This is not how it's supposed to be. It's going to be chaotic. It's going to be stupid. We also see the sun also opposing Uranus. People are going to be restless and uproar and, just chaotic in a sense. We're going to see all of that. Like I said, no matter who wins this election. And the reason also is because of the full moon in Taurus. This is not an ordinary full moon in Taurus, okay? Because this full moon will be exactly conjunct Uranus, unpredictable Uranus, volatile Uranus, surprises, unpredictability, sudden change, sudden realizations, financial matters, values. This all falls under the umbrella of a Mars conjunct in Taurus. And so it's opposing the sun. So on the 15th, or leading up to the 15th, we are looking at a chaotic situation here in Washington, D.C., or in other cities and states, especially the swing states. This is what I'm seeing, friends. And I'm not trying to be negative. I'm giving it to you straight so you prepare yourself psychologically, emotionally, and whatever other way you need to prepare yourself. Now, there are some favorable alignments to this full moon, like Neptune, like Pluto. So this is going to be something to do with power structures, something to do with dissolving the old ways, our belief systems. And so it absolutely looks a little bit volatile because Jupiter is also loosely opposing Mercury. This is people speaking out, being restless, being irritated. It's a loose also T-square to Saturn. So either people are not going to like the outcome of the election, or they are just going to be so restless and like, no, we're not taking this. No, this is not going to be the way I want it. And people are just, losing their crap. Okay. I'm sorry to have to say that. So anyway, in the United States' chart, the full moon looks pretty volatile. Again, we have the opposition right there with the, within the 6th house here with the people. We have Mercury and Venus in the 1st house. Very chaotic energy, people speaking out, people getting restless, all of it is on the table here. And so I'm just seeing a lot of restlessness here and a lot of vocal, outbreak and just all kinds of analysis about, what the election here and what they did there and, the fraud here. And I mean, it's going to be a repeat of 2020, unfortunately, is what I'm seeing here. Now, in Kamala's chart, that full moon, again, look at this. It's on her Jupiter in the 12th house. So once again, I'm seeing a lot of tension with this individual. Whatever is happening, it does not look favorable for her. There's a lot of pressure being put on her for some reason. This could be the powers behind the scenes that are pulling the strings. It could be the people just not liking her at this time for whatever reason. Let's say she, is announced as president. Man, she's going to have this giant bullseye on her. Everyone's going to be criticizing her, and one way or another, either they like her or they don't like her or whatever. But it's right under Jupiter. So it's that opposition going on right there. And so it's just a lot of tension. And she still has that Pluto squaring these two alignments here. So it just does not feel good here for her and whatever she's got going on. And maybe this could be sort of a relief. Things are coming to an end. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad this is over with. Let's say she doesn't win the election. This will be something that she's glad to let go of. Let's put it that way. Okay. In Mr. T's chart, he's got it in right on the top of his chart. Again, indicating something is being directed at him, and not in a very favorable way, I might add, because it's squaring his Mars. See, 26 degrees, 25, 24. So let's just say he is announced as the winner. He is going to be, attacked in so many ways. Remember, I said this before, and many other astrologers have said this before. He needs to pay attention to another assassination attempt or several assassination attempts. And this is all the way up until January, if he gets put in, if they allow him to get in, But this is at his high point in his chart. So something is highlighting his favorability or being in the public or, being in a very high position here because it's at the very top of the chart. But it's not an easy alignment. Not an easy alignment because he's got that square to his Mars, like I said. He's got Mercury also very close to his moon. He still has the favorable Jupiter. This is the saving grace for him. This is why I'm leaning towards Trump winning this election. But it's not easy by any means. It's not. He's got Mars also now in the 12th house, but he has Pluto there, and he has the other Mars, his natal Mars. So it absolutely looks like he is battling something from behind the scenes, some power struggles that are going on here, and many surprises. And he does have to pay attention to his health, like I said, because there's a lot of pressure here. Okay. Now, I want to get to a very important date on the 19th. This is when Pluto re-enters Aquarius. This is going to last till, I believe, 2044. So Pluto entering Aquarius is where the fireworks really kick off in humanity. Pluto is the psychological, sign. It's the power and death transformation sign. And it's in the sign of Aquarius, which is humanitarian, the human family. So this is going to cause so many people to lose their grip on reality. Okay? And it's just the way it works. So in November, and this is why I'm saying this, we're going to have some chaotic nonsense going on, mostly because of the elections and because people are feeling the energy shift and they're uncertain about where they're going. And so it's a very chaotic time. I'm sorry to have to say this, friends. It's just part of the transformation. And it's just the way it works in astrology. It would be great if everyone just woke up and said, you know what, we're all loving spiritual beings, and, we have to get rid of these power structures and these people that are controlling our lives, where we give them, power from us because we give it to them. That would be wonderful, but we're not living in that euphoric society yet. So we're going to see lots of changes occurring. And this, because of the full moon, and then on the 19th, we have Pluto entering Aquarius. We have an opposition between Mercury and Jupiter. We still see a bit of tension going on between Uranus and Uranus and the Sun. And so it's volatile. We even see Pluto lightly opposing Mars. So it's a very chaotic time. The energy is very unstable. Okay, friends? So prepare yourself psychologically, absolutely emotionally. Surround yourself with loved ones, and just understand that the United States is going through a transformation. Okay? So the Pluto in Kabbalah's chart has to do with the 8th house of power, shared resources. So there's a lot of changes happening within her psychologically. And it's squaring her Mercury. So right away, she's got some issues going on mentally, emotionally. The stress level is through the roof. In Mr. T's chart, we have that Pluto in his 5th house. So he's in something new. He's doing something new. And I'm not seeing too many rough alignments to this Pluto as it goes in to his chart. He's got a trine to Neptune, but that's not going to be for a long while. So it definitely looks like he'll be able to handle this a little bit better, but it has to do with his kids. It has to do with his health. And so he needs to really be paying attention to what he's doing. So lots of changes coming. Anyway, I also wanted to share this. This is what I mean by the alternative media. I don't know if you guys know this, but Representative Marjorie Greene sounds the alarm on Capitol Police conducting. This is on the 29th. This was yesterday. I'm doing this video. All kinds of drills going on in the middle of the night. There were about 12 helicopters, 8 military and 4 metropolitan helicopters doing all kinds of emergency rescue kind of drills. Very suspicious. Are they anticipating something, friends? Do you think they're anticipating something? Of course they are. So we are seeing some of this stuff. And, this was, by the way, this is the Gateway Pundit. Pretty good source for news. And this was just on X. Okay. So anyway, this is kind of stuff I'm talking about we need to pay attention to. All right. I also want to share with you that I've started a new segment in my Inner Circle community. I'm going to be teaching remote viewing. I'm going to be doing once a month. We're going to be doing targets where people are going to be tuning into a certain target. And so if you're interested, please consider joining the Inner Circle. It's at school/truthseeker. I'm just trying to make this community as interesting and, and as eventful as possible. Every week we do Zoom calls. And so now we're adding another level of interest into this community. I'm going to be doing remote viewing, teaching you how to remote view. Anyway, we've also are doing a 7-day free trial in the community. So, it's a new feature that we have. You could join the community and you have 7 days. If you like it, great, stay there. If you don't, then, there's a 7-day money back guarantee. So anyway, you'll be learning astrology. We'll be doing the Zoom calls. You'll be able to contact me, interact. We'll also go over your charts each week in the Zoom calls. And so there's a lot of information. I'm also doing the extended monthly astrology there. We're doing the weekly astrology. I do the weekly astrology there. So there's a lot of information. There's a lot of value in this community. So consider joining. I left the link down below. Okay. Anyway, folks, thank you so much. Let's see what happens over the next week. It's going to be one hell of a show. And, I'll do my best to keep you as informed as possible. All right. So I'll see you guys soon. Bye for now.